Actually, no. I don't want you sat right next to me.
That's the first question everyone asks.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
We can do slightly better than this. We've got a full house today. Let's really raise those rafters. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Great, isn't it? That's brilliant. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mark and myself got quite the surprise when we came out of the mediums room, but seeing so many of you gathered here today. Thank you for joining us today. As you may or may not be aware, today is a Lyceum service. So as part of the service today, we will hear a little of the history of this wonderful philosophy and religion called spiritualism. great delight to welcome back to our platform a wonderful friend to myself personally and to the church as a whole and to many of you people gathered here today, Mr. Mark Stone. Mark, thank you for taking our service.
Lovely to be here.
So without further, very quickly, if you have mobile phones or whichever, if you could turn them off, please, because we are plugged into a far greater network, which has no bills. Also, if you are fortunate enough to receive a communication during the service today, absolutely beautiful, but if you could save discussing it until after the service, that would be much appreciated. Without further ado, Mr. Mark Stone, I invite you to open our service in prayer.
Lovely.
Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we can just close our eyes, but open our hearts and minds in prayer. Gracious and divine Spirit, as we join together this morning, allow us to step aside from daily life. Allow us to enter into the peace, the stillness and the healing power of this place, in the healing power of this moment. Allow us in this time to reach out to each other, to blend that light and power of our individual spirit, that we may become one, and that within this power we invite the other world to join us, our friends, our loved ones, our guides and inspirers, those who wish to support and strengthen that light that we are. And we sit to blend with that great and infinite power, the great divine spirit, the infinite mind, and that as we blend with this divine light, that all that is within us is replenished and strengthened and supported. Whatever our needs may be at this time, whatever may be occurring within our world, allow us to draw upon this love and this strength to help us, to guide us, to inspire us. Allow us in this time not only to receive that healing power, but to also be the channels for it, that we can share that love, that healing power with this world as a whole. Let us think of ourselves as one light of humanity, as one light of all life, both human and animal and nature combined. And allow us, as we reach out to the other world, to feel the presence of our loved ones, those who may have left their physical form but still are with us here in their spirit, that love continues to hold us together, that the bonds of love are eternal, and that our loved ones are only that thought away. And as always, we place ourselves and our service in your care and keeping, which is forever love. And we ask that all that is said and done in the truth, the love, and the light of Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Mark, thank you so much for that beautiful opening prayer. And now, if you care to, please join in with saying the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thine will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not when in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you. We now move into that part of the service where we can all practice that divine right that resides within us all, and it's that art of healing. For we are all healers of one form or another, be it by word, thought or deed, it matters not. That healing energy is tapped into and made manifest within this physical world, through and in our mediumship. So during this time, just accompanied by gentle music, if you would, just gently close your eyes and send out healing thoughts, which is another name for love, to wherever you feel drawn. to family, friends, countries, the environment, the animal kingdom, and indeed not forgetting ourselves, for so often we give so much and we neglect to ask for any in return. So just during this time, just send out that love, work with that heart chakra, sending out that beautiful power which is available freely and without limit for us to direct and make manifest on this physical plane. So we leave you alone just for this short time. Divine and infinite Spirit, we give thanks for this time to enable us to work in this most holiest and most dedicated of rites, that sending of love and healing by the power of our thought and willed on by our spirit to wherever there is a need. Amen. We now move on to our first piece of music for today, and it's As I Went Down to the River to Pray. If you wish to sing along, absolutely wonderful. If not, do not worry. The lyrics are supplied by the wonderful recordings. So just enjoy this first piece of music.
As I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, sisters, let's go down, let's go down, come on down. Oh, sisters, let's go down, down in the river to pray. As I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the robe
Lots of foot tapping going on, that's always a good sign. I'd now like to I'd now like to be able to get a sentence out properly. I would now like
Do it by mind.
Oh, okay then. I would now like to invite Mark to deliver the Lyceum part of the
Lovely.
service.
Thank you,
Mark.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And good morning to everyone watching at home, wherever and whenever you're watching this. It's quite interesting. A lot of people, when I put up the fact that I'm doing a Lyceum service, have messaged me and gone, what on earth's a Lyceum service? And don't seem to know. And for those of you that haven't come across this before, and for many of us in the modern movement of spiritualism in more recent years, may not have come across Lyceum at all. Because the Lyceum movement originally, before spiritualism, was to do with ancient Greece and was to do with Aristotle and the study and debate of the philosophy of life. That's what the Lyceum was, thousands of years ago. And that ability to debate amongst each other and to learn and to grow through discussion and debate in a healthy way. Nowadays, if you pose an opposing opinion to anything, especially those of you that go on Facebook, you will know that there's a whole heap of nasty coming from a whole load of people just because you won't agree with their point of view. And so the Lyceum itself, when it became adopted into spiritualism, became like the traditional Sunday school, both for children and also for adults. There's a lot in this is the Lyceum manual, which was created back in the 1940s originally, but with hymns and teachings that were then recited and practiced. And you know, there are songs for kids to sing like "Don't stay in bed, it's a sinful thing to do," which maybe we need nowadays with our teenagers. I don't know, maybe we should be indoctrinating that. Doesn't say whether you're alone in the bed though, I've noticed. It's all right, I'm aware it's a Sunday. But what is fascinating for me is Lawrence, when he asked me to come and do the Lyceum, he said, will you talk about Glyn? Because obviously one of my mentors was a gentleman called Glyn Edwards, who some of you will know, some of you will have met, and was a wonderful, wonderful medium and a great friend. And I know that here at Poole, and again on the wonderful Watchback, you can watch Stephen Wollaston, who is a good friend of Glyn's, and also wrote his books with him, has given a lovely talk about Glyn. So I don't want to talk about Glyn's life, but I want to talk about the way that Glyn came into my life, but also why he was such an amazing influence for me. So the modern Lyceum movement is really about learning and understanding about the philosophy of spiritualism, but also it should be inspiring the ability to question. And so one of the things that's in the Lyceum manual, which I just want to read for you, is called A New Faith for Old Creeds. Let superstition be destroyed and falsehood cast away, that liberty may be enjoyed and truth hold sovereign way. Let thought be free to all mankind, and reason's light illume the long benighted realms of the mind, dispelling clouds of doom. Let conscience rule us every day, that we may honour truth, and her supreme commands obey, through life from early youth. Let kindness fill the human heart with sympathy for all, and bids us knowledge to impart, the mind to disenthrall. Let love prevail over every breast, and happiness abound. May all mankind be truly blessed, and humanity be crowned. And as I said, in the Lyceum manual, there are loads and loads of verses, passages, songs, etc., that were sung and spoken and memorised, committed to memory. You know, nowadays people don't think about committing everything to memory because they have a phone. I remember committing verses and poetry to mind as a child, you know, and still now songs and things are just there by rote. I just know them off by heart. But what's important about the Lyceum movement, and I know that Lawrence has brought it back here online, and those of you that have joined in online as well as here in the church, the important thing is we're at a point in time where we have to look at moving forward in our lives. We have to look at where our belief and our understanding is now, not where it was 150 years ago, 200 years ago. There's a lovely site dedicated to the teachings of Gordon Higginson, who was very instrumental in Glyn's growth as a medium. And in one of his lectures, he stood in the library at the Arthur Findlay College. And if you haven't been to the Arthur Findlay College, it's a beautiful baronial hall, and there is a wonderful library in there with lovely dark wood, with glass-fronted cabinets, with hundreds and hundreds of books on spiritualism. And it's like my dream to have that kind of library. And Gordon was stood in that library delivering a lecture, and he said, ladies and gentlemen, all these books that you see around you were wonderful at the time that they were written and contained immense knowledge. But most of them now are obsolete in that knowledge as we have unfolded and advanced in our knowledge and understanding. And when we look, I was brought up in spiritualism, so I was born and raised in it, but I was always the child who asked why. So when people started to talk about what the spirit world do and don't do, and how we develop mediumship and how we connect to the spirit world, I'd always go, why? Why? And then when I started to go into circles and things were being taught, you mustn't do this, and I'd go, why? You know, you'd hear people say, oh, well, you must open and close all your chakras. If you don't open them, you won't be aware of the spirit world. And if you don't close them, bad things will happen. And I'd go, why? And the question would come back, because that's what my circle leader taught me. I said, but did you never think to question it? I was not a popular student at times. But I thought this. Okay, so as a child, I was aware of the spirit world. And I wasn't sitting there opening and closing a chakra by the power of my mind. I know skeptics who don't believe in life after death, and they see things, feel things, and hear things, and wouldn't know a chakra if it slapped them in the face. And yet they've had experiences of the spirit world. So where has this belief come from? Because of bringing in Eastern ideas of philosophy. And there's nothing wrong with chakras. Please don't think that I'm saying there is. We need to understand them. We need to learn about the energetic system. But we need to understand that things get taken out of context and things get misunderstood. And then people would say, well, don't sit on your own, just in case the spirit world take you into trance and you can't get back. And I would sit there. This used to be said a lot. Those of you that are long-time members of the church will remember this being said. And I'd go, why? Because if the spirit world are intelligent, what on earth are they doing? If the trance state from a speaking point of view, because there are many aspects of trance and unfoldment, if it's true, then who are they coming to talk to if you sat on your own? Makes no sense. Are they going to talk to a room full of no one? Doesn't make sense. You know, if you drift off and someone cuts your silver cord, you'll never come back. And I go, why? Where's that come from? But again, it was always talked about. But it was talked about from a sense of fear. And what I started to realise, that a lot of ideas about the spirit world were based on beliefs that came from other places. You know, I am mindful of the fact that I stand on a Christian spiritualist church platform, so I will be aware that my opinions may be a bit controversial in a moment, so I'm just preparing you for the shock. But a lot of what people believe about the spirit world has come from other traditions' opinions on it. A lot of fear is placed upon our movement and about contact with the spirit world because of biblical texts, or biblical translations, let's say, rather than texts, about the way people read books that are from years and years ago at a time when Christianity ruled with an iron grip, and said that mediums and people who were intuitive in some way were a problem and shouldn't be trusted, and it wasn't your loved ones but evil spirits they were communicating with. And there are many people out there in the world who still hold that belief and that fear. But for me, as a lifelong spiritualist, I've been brought up to believe that this other world is a loving world, a caring world, a supportive world. When you listen to the philosophy of the other world, don't you hear time and time again how much you are loved? How you have this divine power within your being? That you are much more than you ever know? Where is the fear in any of that? But the fear has come over from other beliefs and other misunderstandings. As we've grown in our knowledge of science, and there was a wonderful medium here a month or two ago, Stephen Mager, who did a brilliant talk on psychical research on one of the Lyceum mornings. Please go back and watch that if you haven't, because the study of science and our movement has always gone hand in hand, although a lot of people who are scientific would tell you it doesn't, and it's never been proved, and there's no truth behind any of it. But there has been lots of study into this movement. But there has also been great unfolding in science, in mental health awareness, in all manner of things that once was misunderstood and put at the feet of the spirit world, we now know is nothing to do with the spirit world. We know these things and we understand these things. But yet, as we move forward in our understanding, if we cling to the fears of the past, if we aren't willing to look at where this moves forward, we are going to have a problem. So my problem, ladies and gentlemen, became that when I started working on the platform 30 years ago, when I was 17, and I was saying these things, you can imagine how unpopular I became with local mediums. And very kindly, a group of local mediums decided to try and end my career for me, going around to churches asking them to boycott me as a medium. Mediums that I actually sat in circle with. How nice and how kind. And by the time I was 24, I'd had enough of spiritualism. I was on my way out. I was, goodbye, so long, thanks for all the fish, I'm going to go off, live my life, and forget this. And that's when I was introduced to a gentleman called Glyn Edwards. And a friend of mine said, before you make any decisions about your mediumistic work and where you're going to go, I want you to meet this man. And I was like, okay. And I went to a workshop with him down at Axminster at the Awareness Centre. And it was like a breath of fresh air. And it was a man who did not confine the other world by saying, you do it like this or you do it like that. He didn't tell you there's a single formula, and if you follow what I do, you'll be a perfect medium. I've not met one yet that gives a perfect formula that works for every single individual. You are unique. His demonstrations were fascinating and enthralling to watch. And I was just like, this is what I'm talking about. Someone who questions and says, why? Why do you believe that? Why do you think that's true? And would then get people to question it themselves. Not say, believe me, but you go and find out. You go and put it to the test. You go and think about it, research it, read, look into, again and again and again. We have become a very lazy society. We want it on a platter 24/7 hours a day and like that. If we are dedicated to the growth of our spirit, whether we want to be a medium or not is immaterial. If you are here, you are searching to understand. You are looking to understand not only about life hereafter, but life here and now. And so Glyn and I started to go on Glyn's courses a lot at the Arthur Findlay College, and then when I opened my own business, I invited Glyn down as a tutor, and then we started working together and teaching together, and we taught only 2 weeks before he passed to the spirit world. We were still talking and working together then. And we would sit and debate. We'd go for a meal somewhere, because Glyn loved restaurants. There was a good food guide, and whenever he said, can we go and visit a town or a village, I thought it's a funny place to go, and then I'd find that we'd always end up at a very good pub or a very good restaurant. I thought, aha, it's the good food guide calling. But we would then sit and we would debate spiritualism. We'd say, well, what do you think about the belief that everything happens for a reason, and what do you think about when people say this? And we would talk about these things in great depth, and we often came to the same conclusion. We have often been told things that are too much of trying to put something in a box. That philosophy tries, or people try to make everything nice and tidy in spiritualism. And for those of you that have been in spiritualism a long time will know nothing ever stays in a box for long. Because the minute you label it, the minute you think you've got it, the minute you think you've cracked it, it changes and it evolves. It moves and it shifts. Isn't that just life? The minute you think you got it pegged, something else changes. But that's the nature of life. And so with me and with Glyn, the way that we would sit and that we would talk and we would question, and the way that we would be able to talk to each other in a way that supported, and it was him that said, don't stop doing what you're doing, because you're doing what is right and what needs to be. And many of you that would have met him and known him would have known that he would have encouraged you to be you. Not to be a copy of anyone else, not to try and be someone else, but to be you and to find what is true for you. He never called himself a spiritualist. He didn't like the title. He said it was limiting. And I understand what he means, that he would read about every tradition, about every religion. We need to do that as well, but not in it to turn and say, well, this is better than that, but to see the core truths of life and philosophy. You know, when you boil everything down, the core truths are all the same, except everyone says our way is the way. There's a book out there that was written many, many years ago by a gentleman called Timothy Freak, and I can't remember what the book was called, but it's something like, this book will change your life in an hour. And at the time, when we were going, we went to the signing for it. And on the way, I read this book in the car in less than, just over an hour. I'm a slow reader. And the person went, what did you think? What did you think? And I went, but we know all that in spiritualism. But what he did was he took away all the meat from the bones and just went down to the core beliefs. And all core beliefs are the same, about loving, connection, serving, supporting, helping. But what happens is we get stuck in our way is the only way. And in our development, our training, our understanding of spiritualism, in any aspect of spiritualism, whether it's Christian spiritualism, union, independent, whatever, I consider myself a rational spiritualist. It has to be proved and seen to be believed. Otherwise, I put a question mark over it. But as we look at these things, we need to be able to question. We shouldn't be turning around and going, we've always done it that way, so that's the way it always has to be done. Good Lord, imagine we'd have no technology, although some days, there are days when I'm sure you curse technology to the high heavens every time the phone pings or the email goes. But without that progression, we would still be stuck in the dark ages. Imagine if you couldn't know what was going on with a loved one after they left the end of your street and your village, apart from by a letter that might take a week or two to get to you. Can you imagine now, the minute someone doesn't text you back, what's wrong? Why haven't you responded? Forgetting other people have lives. And we change as life has changed, as life has become faster, we are expecting life and the spirit world and everything else to keep up. But we forget that part of what we need to do is learn to slow down. Didn't the year of Corona make us stop and think a lot? And you know, I talked to someone the other day and I said, you know what, I'm actually quite grateful what happened, because it forced me to go outside my comfort zone and start teaching and working online, which if you'd have asked me as a traditional, I consider myself a traditional medium. I like being in a workshop, I like being with a group of people in a room. That's how it is, that's how it's always been, and that's the best way to... Stuck in the way of working in the past, and then something changed that forced us to move forward. I'm now working and teaching online, and it's like a whole different ball game has opened up as a result. So out of everything that goes on, the difficulties that we experience, there can be great and wonderful changes that come out of them, despite the trauma, the upset, etc. Part of our philosophy. Now, did COVID happen just for me to have that experience? That would be a bit arrogant to say that, but I do turn to my friends and I say, I'm so sorry COVID happened just to make me work online. And they laugh, and I say, well, you know, that's what I take from it. It did me a favour in that respect. Of course, a lot of other things that aren't favourable. But as we move forward, we must be able to question. We mustn't turn around and say, well, that's how it's always been done. When you look at a lot of the wonderful early books of spiritualism, the books that were written in the 1800s, they are steeped in the Bible says. Even the guides coming through, bear in mind, the spirit world speak through the mind of a medium who is embedded in the thoughts of their time and of their place. And so often you see and hear everything being referred back in biblical texts, biblical ways of looking at things. Now, there is nothing wrong with information that is there within the Bible. But we need to realise, and I don't want to open a whole can of worms, but if you have ever studied and looked at the creation and the form of the canonical Bible, it's gone through a lot of different versions over the course of the millennia. And a wonderful guy called Reverend Alan Jones, I don't know whether you've ever seen him, he's done some wonderful documentaries on the BBC. He did Around the World in 80 Faiths, and he went round and looked at all the different faiths in the world and the commonalities and the connections. But he also did a series that was on the books of the Bible and the creation and the rewriting and the formation of the Bible, and it was marvellous. But it made you realise how edited everything has become, and how there are wonderful Gospels. If you haven't read it, the Gospel of St. Thomas, which is denied by the church as being an authentic gospel, says, you know, lift a stone and I'm there, split a piece of wood and I'm there. In other words, God is in everything. It's not necessarily in a building or a church. It's in the hearts and minds of the individuals. Well, of course, what does that do, ladies and gentlemen? It threatens the establishment. So when we look at our movement moving forward, every single one of you, every single one of us should be an inquiring mind. We should be able to question without fear of being mocked or isolated for our opinion. We shouldn't feel that it's wrong to ask, but why do we do it like that? You know, I was having a discussion with Lawrence out at the back, and we were saying, you know, if things don't change, things just decay. Because we need to move with the world that we are in. We need to bring in the understanding of the world that we are in. And when we look at life, when we look at the mediumistic experience, there is still a lot of fear about what we do and about the spirit world. Sadly, a lot of it through the media, a lot of it through films, horror movies. I love a good horror movie, I have to say. I always have since a child. I was a Hammer House of Horror kid. Christopher Lee and I nearly said Bruce Lee then, he's martial arts, and Peter Cushing. And I loved all of those films and found them great fun. And even the modern ones that scare the bejesus out of you, I still love those in their own way. However, I see that as fantasy and the spirit world as the reality. But interestingly enough, if you all have a little research, and you can do this, you can go online. If you look at a lady and gentleman called Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were demonologists and exorcists in the American Evangelical Church, all of the films that are based on true stories are mostly based just on their work and their belief that demons are everywhere and demons cause all the problems. Isn't that interesting that a whole movement of fear created by one person's or one couple's experience of their belief, but yet I can't tell you the amount of people I see who have said, well, I've watched that film, and I've gone, but you need to look a bit deeper, not just because a film says based on true events. Take it as read. We must look behind the fantasy. We must look behind. You know, The Exorcist scared a lot of people about Ouija boards. Do you know what? Victorian seances, Ouija boards, table tipping, all of that was the norm. All of that was the norm. But one film demonised it and made everyone fearful. And when you put fear into the minds of individuals, it comes out in everything that they do. Everywhere that they turn, the fear grips people. It frightens people. It puts people off. Ours is a loving power. The spirit world, the divine, our friends, our loved ones are loving and supportive and caring. Let us question and be free to question the old ways. Let us be able to debate amongst friends, amongst fellow spiritualists, and not turn around and go, ugh, that person. And just say, do you know what? That's one opinion, here's another opinion. Every medium's written a book, my way, if you like. Every medium has their way of working, their way, the spirit world's way. Every church has their own way of doing things. Do you know what? If it didn't, wouldn't life be boring? The same, the same, the same. Only through change do we evolve. Only through change do we improve. So let us not be bound by old beliefs, by old fears, by old thoughts. Let us be free to embrace where spirit will lead us, and not to feel that we are betraying the old by moving into a new. We can still hold on to our beliefs, our upbringing in whatever way, but if it confines us, if it frightens us, if it restricts us, then it is not helping us. Many years ago in a trance address, one of my friends in the spirit world said, there are 3 R's you don't need in the education of the spirit. Rules, restrictions, and regulations. Allow the spirit to be free. So ladies and gentlemen, allow your mind, your heart, your inquiring voices to be free and to create the spiritualism of the future that you want. Come to the Lyceum evenings that are run here. Come and join with others wherever you are to talk openly and honestly about the spirit world without fear. And let's move forward together, creating our future, our legacy, and our Lyceums of the future to help and support all people, regardless of their belief. And I'll leave that thought with you and say God bless.
Yes, by all means, you can if you wish. Mark, that speaks volumes. absolutely wonderful. I know you've touched on so many people here and also online and online of the future. Beautiful. We will be going over our normal 1 hour time today, so if anybody's got any concerns about car parking or whatever, if you need to leave, that's absolutely fine. You don't need to put your hand up, honestly. Just take that as read. If you need to go because of car parking, just please quietly do so. That's not an issue whatsoever. So we now move on to our next piece of music, which is more to listen to, more to reflect, but also, very importantly, it's a wonderful time to just send out that thought to our loved ones and just send it out and say, I remember you. Because this is a time when we can work with our own mediumship. The evidence and information given from the platforms can be so wonderful, but it is by no means the be-all and end-all. The most important communication that you'll ever receive is your own communication. So just enjoy this piece of music and just send out that thought and just say, I remember you.
When I needed a neighbor, were you there? Were you there? When I needed a neighbor, were you there? And the creed and the color of the name won't matter, were you there? I was hungry and thirsty, were you there? Were you there? I was hungry and thirsty, were you there? And the creed and the color and the name won't matter, were you there? I was cold, I was naked, were you there? Were you there? I was cold, I was naked, were you there? And the creed and the color and the name won't matter, were you there? When I needed a shelter, were you there? Were you there? When I needed a shelter, were you there? And the creed and the color and the name won't matter, were you there? When I needed a healer, were you there? Were you there? When I needed a healer, were you there? And the creed and the color and the name won't matter, were you there? Wherever you travel, I'll be there, I'll be there. Wherever you travel, I'll be there. And the creed and the color and the name won't matter, were you there?
So now I'd like to invite Mark for his demonstration of mediumship. As always, just one thing, a simple thing we ask. If Mark should come to you, a nice clear response does help to strengthen that link, or am I being guided by old thoughts and ways? Now you've challenged me, I have no idea. You can maybe
No,
sit in
good
silence.
to talk.
It's good to talk, so I'm reassured, yes. A nice clear response, so a yes or a no will help to strengthen that link. So
Or
Mark,
don't know. If you don't know it, you don't know it.
Indeed. Over to
Lovely,
you,
thank
sir.
you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you all know how this goes, but sometimes we know where we're going, sometimes the sat-nav goes on the fritz, so let's just see where we go. I'd like to talk to the lady. I don't know whether I'm with the lady on the end with the grey check or with the lady with the blue, but I'm aware of a lady with me here in the spirit world, and I know that this lady had problems with her chest before passing to the spirit world. I don't know whether this lady was a smoker in life, but I keep getting the sense of smoke always being around her. Yeah? And would she have been told not to and then still ignored it and carried on beyond the point she's been told not to smoke?
Yeah, she did.
Because there's a little bit of a rebel with this lady. There's a little bit of a, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm my own person. And in a way, as she comes in with that, you know, sometimes that was infuriating for people that she wouldn't listen to others. Would you understand that? Yeah? Because I get this feeling of but I'm going to do my own, and if I'm not happy, why should I make myself unhappy just to please other people? I mean, it's a strong lady who'd say that to people that love her, but that's how she was. You take me, what you see is what you get, okay? And is this grandma, please?
No, I think it's probably mum.
It's mum, okay. Because I feel that grandma would be very similar then. Grandma would be very, very similar in being very defiant and very hard. I nearly said hard-nosed about her, but quite strong. You know, you can't turn her thoughts. You can't change her way of thinking. But I know here that as mum's coming then, that there is this sense of saying, I want you, oh dear, I want you to not think that you have to please everyone, but I want you to start thinking about what pleases you. Okay? And I know here as she does this, there's this feeling of wanting to put my hands around your face and give your cheeks a little cooch like that and give them a little squeeze, because I absolutely adore the ground you walk on. Okay? I adore the ground you walk on, but I want you to be strong within yourself. Okay? She had a knowledge of this, but not necessarily that she attended a church, a spiritualist church. She would have seen or read about the spirit world. So I don't know whether she read things like Doris Stokes, but I've got the sense that she knew that there was something more, that we will meet again, that we will see again, okay? And I know as well, please, that's the Vera Lynn song, We'll Meet Again, has significance for her. So there's also wartime connections that connect in the family where people went but didn't come back, please. Now you're going to have to go and have a look at that, because there's a gentleman who went, but I feel this may have been an uncle of hers or somebody that's going back, okay, where they didn't come back, but that's where this connection with mum started to come, because we know that they survive, okay? So what else do you want, sweetheart? Because we're going to work quicker this morning. I also want to say to you, please, as you're making steps into this kind of environment, so I don't know whether this is all brand new for you, but it feels like I'm coming in and starting to find my feet in spiritualism as such. I want to be excited for what doors open up for you, okay? So it's almost like mum saying, it's great because we're going to have a lot more chats now, okay? And I know that there has been a situation recently where you've started thinking about mum and then going, oh yeah, but that's just my mind. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
And she said, don't you call me your imagination. I'm here, and when I'm here, I'm here. You know, you couldn't miss that. She said, I'm here. So she's been aware of that, you see. She's been aware of those conversations because that's where you turn for that strength. So she said, I'm still here. I'm still giving the strength, okay? Would she have had problems with her hands before she passed? Were they uncomfortable? Were they sore? If not, I may have moved on because I'm aware of like arthritic-y things to do. No, then I've moved on. So let me leave mum's love with you. Grandma's in there somewhere as well in the midst. I have to say, Grandma wouldn't have liked the idea of challenging established belief and religion. Because she's not very impressed. Challenge. She would have been the ones we couldn't have the open discussion with. It is what it is, and that's what's written. Okay, but I know that. Just as we move from that, there are things that she's talking about. She's saying you're being told stuff like we can't do anything about that. We can't change that. That's the way it is. Do you know there's always a way around things? Will you remember that? Just because it's written down somewhere doesn't mean that it can't be challenged and it can't be done a different way. Okay? Or you just remember she's saying that because it's like you'll find your way around it. You don't have to settle for what you're being told is the only way. Okay? Leave that with you and say God bless. Glenn. Now I was talking about my friend Glyn, but I'm hearing the name Glenn being called out, G-L-E-N. And I'm aware of a gentleman here, but I don't think he's the Glenn. Would somebody there know where Glenn and the name Alan would connect? Now, these names might not belong together, but I've got a gentleman in the spirit world here, and I know that this man, before he's passed to the spirit world, has had a lot of problems. I'm not certain it's a cancer condition. I think it's more an immune system issue, but I know he's talking about the names Glenn and the name of Alan, been significant? Would that mean anything to someone here? Okay. Would you know a gentleman who's in the spirit world who would have had, I don't know whether it's like a blood cancer or an immune deficiency that would have taken him over to the spirit world?
There was a degenerative
Okay, but it's...
I don't know if it wasn't
No, but it feels like the immune system, everything's going wrong. I couldn't feel a sight of pain. I feel everything's just not right with me. So you'd understand the Glen, but you wouldn't be able to then think of where Alan would also connect here.
I knew the family,
But you didn't know that. Okay, that's... Well, maybe this is something you can go back and ask, because this gentleman, as he comes in, was this man a father, please? Because I feel as if I want to get the message back to my children. I want them to know. I know it's not always easy to do that, but I know that there is this feeling of I want to reach out to them. I want them to know I'm still okay. I know that we can't always put ourselves in that position, but we can send out the thought that they know, okay? Because I feel with him as well that he would have been, despite restriction, and I keep on feeling as if I'm not letting it win. I'm not letting it win. I've got a real determination and a defiance that I am not going to be confined by what everyone tells me I shouldn't be able to do anymore. And I literally feel when people are saying, why aren't you, like in the chair, why aren't you using, and he's going, no, because I don't need it, if I'll only use it if I need it. And there is this defiant spirit that comes in here. I do feel, I know we've said that it may not be easy to do the connection here with the family, but I do feel that I need to think about the family and send healing to them at the moment. So there may be things that are going on with the family that needs that, but I know you can bring that in with the healing side of things anyway, and I know that can be done there. Coming closer to home with this, I'm starting to get feedback. Would you also understand where the name Shirley connects in the spirit world as well, please? Yes. That's all right. It's all right. Because I'm just aware of this lady coming close as well, and I feel that there is love and help and support from you to her. Okay? Because I know you do healing things, but would you have done healing for this lady? You wouldn't have sent out healing thoughts for her? No. Bear with me 1 second then. Because she's talking about thanking you for the healing. Bear with me 1 minute. Is there still connection to Shirley's family here on Earth?
Oh, yes.
Okay, have we been sending healing for them at some point recently? Have we held them in our thoughts? No? Can I ask you then, because I've got this feeling if she wants to thank you for healing that's been given, and I know you do healing, but it needs to connect to her. So can I ask you again to hold them in your thoughts, or if you can be in touch with them, because I feel there is this need to connect. Because I know before this lady passed the spirit world, she became very ill very quickly. And it's literally like everything's just suddenly caught up with her and overtaken her. And I know that there isn't this time to sort everything out in my family and do everything that I wanted to do. Would you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. And I feel this is a lady that was always so organised in life, so methodical in whatever she tried to do, that she would have hated things being left undone, unsaid, unfinished. Okay? And there were things that were left behind that were not certain and were uncertain as to what to do and how to deal with things. Okay, so again, I feel that although she may have been gone at a time, I still feel that the family still felt the effect of what went on here. Okay, but she's talking about there being a bit of disarray around them now. So if you're able to be in touch, if you're able to connect and find out, because I'm in the middle of moving house. I'm seeing like mess everywhere because that's like my house. But I know that there is this sense of things not being organised, not being in a good space. Okay? So she's wanting to bring that. Anything else? Thanks, Rita. Would you also have connections with the family name of Williams as well? This would be on a friendship connection, and I feel that we're going back to somewhere where we used to live. Tell me no, and I might have moved.
I know people called Williams, but
where we used to live, going back, not now, going back. And I kind of feel this is more when we're talking about going back to family home when you're younger. Can you not remember? Don't worry. Because I'm just aware of like a Mr. and Mrs. Williams, and I feel as if these are next door neighbours. Would you have a think on that? I know it may be going back. Isn't it awful? It's like when you start filling in a form and you have to start scrolling back several times to find your year. I start worrying when that happens. But I know that there is this feeling of this older couple, and they would have been elderly when you were young, of taking a great interest in you when you were younger. Okay? And so being around. But I just kind of feel as they're bringing this in about the pride for you. And about the sense of pride about how you're doing things and where you are with things, okay? And again, with both lots, there's this thanks coming in for the healing of what's done, okay? And I know you do that healing, but I feel it needs to be echoed, okay? So let me leave that with you. If you can, reach out to Shirley's family, and if you're able, if not, just send the thought out and hope it's received. So let me leave that with you. And I think I've moved, but I might not have done. If I come to the back there, I'm hearing the name Gladys being called out. Gladys, but people would often call her Glad. And you're still with you, okay. Wait for it, I might be there. Because I've got... She's not passed. No. This lady well, hang on a minute then. Have we been sending healing for Gladys then?
Well, no, but she's a very elderly aunt.
Oh, well, I would send her a bit of healing then if I were you. Because I just get this feeling of wanting to talk about Gladys.
Well, she's my auntie Gladys, and everyone called her Glad.
Glad, well, there you are. Fabulous. That's really strange, because I'm going to disrobe now, I'm getting on. So that healing power. But then just please, again, it feels like it's about reaching out and connecting to people. And I know that although we may have had more time than we ever thought we had during COVID, we still forget to catch up. And I feel as if we need to catch up with people. And is Shirley then connected in the family as well?
Yeah, she's my auntie.
There you are.
On the other side.
There you are. So it's all connecting to family and trying to reach out to the individual family members as well. So maybe there's just that need just to be, because sometimes these ladies were the pivots that used to keep in touch with everyone. Maybe now you're the pivot to keep in touch. Yeah? Lovely. Let me leave that with you and say God bless. That's really... Let me just check something. Gladys or Shirley wasn't to do with singing and would have sung in a choir. No. Tell me no. No, just tell me no and we'll move. I've got a lady here and I'm aware of her singing in a choir. I don't know whether it's a church. It feels more like it's possibly at church, but I do feel that we sang outside of the church as well. And that this lady, before she passed the spirit world, I don't think she reached 60. She may have only been in her 50s when she passed. And I feel there's a cancer condition that's taken her. And that bit of music, when I laughed and said, thank heavens we didn't stay on that, she would have sung that kind of like high choral, very, very complicated types of music. Would anyone understand that? I feel this may be a friendship connection rather than family. Looking around? No? Okay. And I keep hearing the name Maggie being called, but I don't know whether that's her name or would tie us in with where this friendship is. No one understands this. Looking around. Okay, bear with me 1 second. And I feel also with this lady that she would have been involved. My mum's got very involved in WI at the moment. And I kind of feel there's connections with the Women's Institute, etc. with this. This doesn't mean anything to anyone. Sure? Sue?
I've got Auntie Maggie in the
Okay, and did she sing at one point in a choir? Would you have known that?
everybody in the village,
We did, okay. That's fine. Let's have a look.
Gladys
And you know a Gladys too? Because I felt that a Gladys was pulling across, so we've got the crossover. And Gladys would be in Spirit World as well, would she now? Yeah. Okay. So there's where the crossover is. That's lovely. Thank you, Sue. And Maggie would have gone in her 50s, late 50s. Was she? Okay. Because I feel maybe, right, let me just check something then. Did her health start to affect her in her late 50s? Was she unwell kind of for quite a while? Okay. Because I felt as if all of what I was doing kind of came to a bit of an abrupt end, as in what I could do and what I was able to do. And I kind of then just stopped a lot of things because of health. Okay. Because I feel that as she's coming in here, I keep wanting to do, funnily enough, that piece was Alleluia in it, and I've almost got the Alleluia chorus. And I know that you're in the process of moving, because you said that to me last time we were here. But I've got this sense of Alleluia, Alleluia, as if it's like finally, yes. Finally. And whether you've even been going around the house going, Alleluia, thank heavens, because it really feels like there is that sense of relief and that sense of... I can breathe now. I can just stop. Okay. Yeah, you and me both. I'd love to have that feeling. But I know that as she's here, she's a very pragmatic lady. She would look at life and she would look at the way life was and just say, do you know what? You've just got to get on with it. You've just got to... But not in a... Sometimes people are very much, you know, oh, don't moan, don't whinge. It's not like that. She's very much, come on now, let's see what we can do rather than moan about what we can't. And I know that this positivity and this strength within her has been around you, okay? And I know you're aware of the other world drawing around you, but I know that you've called on that strength. And it's interesting. Do you remember, would she have a holly wreath on her front door at Christmas? Because I was just drawn to that holly bush where all the new spikes, and she's going, those would bend nicely. And she would have made them. She'd know how to make those kind of things. And I feel very, very much that by Christmas it will just feel like everything else is a world away now. That we're in it's totally changed. It's totally in that space of peace. And she loved Christmas. She loved celebration. She loved the holidays. You know, she even made a bit of a fuss with Easter and things like that because there was always something to do and something to make. If it wasn't food, it was crafty. There was all these things that were being brought in. And I know that as she brings in these kind of things, there's this special love of doing these things and having you help as well when you're younger and being able to bring these sorts of things in, even from childhood. You know, some of our favourite memories are making a mess in the kitchen. You know, that's the sort of thing, and that's why I've got the memories coming in here. But again, all right, sweetheart, I like you. And I know as well with her, just very briefly, I keep wanting to go towards the end of February for anniversaries here. So about the 22nd or 23rd of February, there should be an anniversary that would connect in if you go back and think. But I think this is past family, not anniversary here on the earth anymore. So if it doesn't make sense to you now, will you hold on to the sense of this? And I know that this is funny. I've got a sneaking suspicion someone's going to invite you to make a wreath, as in a Christmas wreath. Will you remember that's been said? Either someone's going to say, I'm going to a wreath making workshop, and you might get invited along. Go and do it. Go and do it. Go and enjoy. Because I know that this is a time of creativity and a time of change. Okay. I also feel pleased that there must have been books that she left behind, but they got pressed flowers in them, and there must have been a flower found in a book after she passed. Now, if this isn't in your knowledge, would you just hold it in mind? Because I feel if I went through your books at home, I would find similar things put in pages, like the odd feather that had fallen while I was reading the book, and I'd put the feather in there and keep it. And I know that I've got the odd flower, but I know she used to do that as well. Okay? So I know these are the things that connect us. And would there also have been a connection with Iris as well, please?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And because I just heard the name being called out there as I was leaving, and just know there's a whole heap, almost like the family version of the WI coming around you, of all the ladies in the spirit world coming in to give you a hand. You know, they'd be rolling up and scrubbing and doing the kitchen and doing the floors for you. So everything was perfect, and that's the sort of thing they want it to be perfect for you, and to recognise how perfect it is. All right. So if I leave that with their love and their affection, and say God bless. Are we at time? We are at time. So ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of myself and those in the other world, I'd like to thank you for your love, your attention, your energy that makes those communications possible. And I'll say good morning and God bless.
Thank you, Mark. A few notices. Our online activities, Monday night at 7 o'clock, Saturday morning at 9 a.m. We have our 5-minute online meditations. This coming Saturday at 7 p.m. we have a spiritual-based evening. The speaker is yet to confirm, so I won't get your hopes up. But it'll be somebody lovely, whoever.
Show.
Yeah, yeah. I'll put my cats on. That'll be that great. Here physically in church, this coming Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Funny you should say that. It is myself, and this is a real life booking. The other week I had to step in, but I am booked to take the service this Wednesday, thank you. See, somebody's listening, well done. At 3 o'clock. This will be a divine style service, which will include reading, philosophy, healing, and evidential mediumship. Next Sunday at 11 o'clock, we welcome for his first visit with us at Paul, Mark Rylands, to take our service. And again, that will be a divine-based service, so again, that will contain healing, reading, philosophy, and evidential mediumship. Friday the 22nd in the morning from 11 o'clock till 2 o'clock is our monthly bereavement group meeting. Open to all, and it doesn't have to be a recent bereavement. If you feel the need to come along, we warmly invite you in. There is no set fee, it is by donation, and it's actually a very useful time for people to be able to sit and share their thoughts, experiences, amongst other people who are going through that same part of their journey at the same time. So that's on Friday the 22nd. Doors open at 10:15. We will close the doors at 11:15, because once we get talking and engrossed with each other, it's not very pertinent to have people just dropping in after we've got into the rhythm of things. As you've noticed by the hymns, we are using printed versions to hand out. We're obviously working wherever possible to reduce the risk of transmission. You'll also notice we have extractor fans installed to keep the air moving for everybody's benefit within the church. Part and parcel of that also is we do not hand around the collection plate, but please, I will draw your attention there to on the table there, and very well guarded by Ian. You need to stay there, Ian. Thank you, sir. All that leaves me to do now is to ask Mark for the closing prayer. Thank you, sir.
So, ladies and gentlemen, once more, let us close our eyes and open our hearts and minds in prayer. Gracious and divine Spirit, we thank you for this time that we have shared together. We thank you for the companionship of like minds and friends on the spiritual pathway. We thank you for the individual thoughts and expressions and inspirations that each and every one of us has for life. And we thank you for the freedom in this time and place to be able to express those thoughts, those feelings, those beliefs freely, without fear, without ridicule. And we ask that as we go through our lives in the days and weeks to come, that we are open to the inspiration of the other world, those who wish to support us and guide us. Let us be aware of the still and quiet inner voice, the inner voice not only of our own spirit, but of those who guide us in the spirit world. Allow us to be led by the hand of the other world and guarded and guided safely until we all meet again in this beautiful house of healing, love, light, and of spirit. So as always, we thank you for all that has been, all that is, and all that is yet to come, with joy, hope, and inspiration in our hearts and minds. Amen.
Amen. Mark, thank you. You have presented a beautifully rounded Lyceum service today.
Bless you.
Exactly what was needed, and a lot of stimulating thought to take away with us. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Bless you.
Thank you all for joining us today. It's so nice to see so many in attendance. And thank you too to all those watching us online, be it live today or in the future. All that remains me is to say, have a beautiful day. Sun's out, make the most of it. We are having a wonderful October, so get out there and enjoy it. Thank you all for coming.
God bless. Yay.